just for procedural purposes, or?
Yeah, we can start. We can recap pretty quickly.
Well, I did that without bumbling through it.
I know, it's always the way it
It
goes.
was very smooth.
Is that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we will call to order the February 11th, 2021 meeting of the Poolsville Planning Commission. We have a full attendance from our commissioners with our town engineer, John Strong, and our town manager, Seth Rivard. On tonight's agenda, we have announcements. We do not have anybody signed up for public comment. We will do the approval of our minutes from the December meeting. Under new business, we have the Bricken Property Concept Plan application. We have master plan discussion and the Planning Commission 2020 meeting schedule. Do not have anything under old business, and after that, we will adjourn. So
just as a quick reminder, I have an 8:25 hard stop for me. If you guys need to keep going, you know, if there's anything I can do, maybe you could try calling me, but I will have to leave at that time. I apologize.
It's all right. I think we can manage with that. But since you were talking, Martin, do you have any announcements from the commissioners?
The only thing I have to announce is we touched on the master plan and in the last commissioner meeting, and when it was going to get done, or when we were going to start writing it. And so I'll be able to report back that, you know, the process has been kicked off after this meeting. There was also some discussion about water and sewer capacity, and we're still struggling with that, trying to figure out the best way forward on that and try to get a handle on it. And, you know, I don't think I need to emphasize to you guys how important that is, and you know, that we don't mess this up. So you know, we're taking our time and trying to get a good handle on it. So those are the only announcements that I have from the last meeting.
Mr. Radigan, do you want to mention the Willard Project and the public comment phase?
Sure. I'm sure you guys have seen this on social media, but and at the last meeting we voted to not approve the overlay zone at that point, but to move it until Monday night or next Tuesday night. It's not going to be Monday because of President's Day, but and then we opened up, you know, public comment and tried to put it out there in social media and everything like that to try to get, you know, encourage the public to give comments. And I think the public comment closes Friday at noon, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Seth?
That's correct.
No, I don't know what's going to happen at the next meeting, if we're going to have to, you know, extend it a little bit longer to get more public comment. I just don't know. There's a lot of confusion and misinformation out there, and you know, hopefully we're trying to get some kind of a handle on that.
Very good. Thank you for that. Seth, are any staff updates?
No, there are no staff updates.
All right. And as there's nobody for...
We could state that Ms. Beaulieu's preliminary plat had been signed by you.
Oh, yeah. I signed Mrs. Beaulieu's preliminary plan.
Correct. Yep, absolutely.
Nobody for public comment, so we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from the December 16th, 2020 meeting? Anybody have any comments, edits, omissions?
So I have a quick question, and I was hoping for clarification by the town attorney, but it says that the preliminary site plan application under new business, and then it later says that we approved the concept plan. And I remember during our meeting, and I went back and pulled it, we can go back and talk about the timestamp on that. But there was a distinction between, sorry, it's very loud in my house. There's a distinction between a preliminary plan and a concept plan. And so one was more restricted than the other. And I thought that we were approving, I just want to know which plan we were approving. And it seems that there was confusion even in the notes, because under new business, it says preliminary, but then later it says concept plan and concept plan. So what did we approve exactly? And can we get clarification on that before we approve these minutes?
Sure. If we're talking about the Pondview subdivision.
Oh, that's the Pondview subdivision. Okay.
That's Mr. Hart's. That was definitely a preliminary plat.
Okay.
You had to go through concept plan prior at a different stage.
Okay, still it goes back to, I don't understand the difference between concept plan and preliminary plan.
Sure.
And I know that there was an explanation in our last meeting, and I was hoping that I could get that explanation again, because I'm not sure
Absolutely.
that this accurately represents what we approved. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I was just looking at the minutes here, at least under the pond view, which is Mr. Gary Hartz's project. And I was just trying to make sure that the terminology was not intertwined. So a concept plan, think about it as sort of a rough draft of what the development's going to be. And you all give a nod to say, yes, that looks like something we'll approve conceptually, you're in the right order. And why it's a concept plan, or sometimes referred to as sketch plan, is before the applicant spends a lot of money on carrying out the next step, which is the preliminary plat standards, is if you say, you know what, we really think that's the wrong direction, we really aren't going to approve that many lots, or we think this could be changed a little bit. Think of, actually, let's go to the Jameson project that's on for tonight, the Bricken. It's a concept plan. You sent them back in December and said, we want to see some changes. And so this thing isn't fully engineered down to great detail. It's got some very high preliminary engineering that they can lay this out on. And so if there's a change, as you had all requested on that Jameson project, they can go back and change it while they don't have a lot of cost into it. Once you get to the preliminary stage, think of those as almost blueprints to your house, where, you know, that's the full layout of, like, where's all the electrical going to go? Where's all the plumbing go? In this case, it's curbs, stormwater, all those details, the sidewalks, and down to, like, you know, the thousandth of an inch, because things have to flow and stormwater has to go in a different direction. So that's really the difference. One is very much more conceptual without a lot of engineering. The other one is a full on board engineering. And that's why people come to you with a concept plan, to make sure that if there's a change, they can do it at a less expensive location.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that. I wanted to make sure that we had approved the one that had more give to it, that we could come back and look at, and not something that was more settled.
Correct.
Because it was my understanding. Thank you.
Yeah, it was more settled, the Gary Hart's pond view.
So in regards to continue that discussion real quick, the Fishpool Willard project, we didn't vote to approve any plans as much to recommend to the commissioners to apply the overlay zone, correct?
Correct.
Is there any sort of inherent approval of concept when we do that?
I will say this. I've indicated to the applicant that, yes, essentially the planning commission's role was the sketch plan and the overlay. And the only real use for the town commission is the use of the overlay. Because in some ways, I shouldn't say in some ways, the overlay and the sketch plan are almost inherently tied together, right? You can't get the overlay is really essentially a mechanism to create a unique development, so to speak, that fits the goals of the master plan through a written zoning code application, meaning that we've created standards folks can meet. It allows for a little flexibility in the overlay, but the inherent is that we'll get something more out of it. In this case, you know, they're upping their architectural standards. In this case, there's some park space. And I go down that direction to say that the planning commission essentially approved the sketch plan and the overlay because they're dependent upon one another, right? You know, the overlay helped facilitate the creation of that sketch plan, right? Because it's the mechanism of that overlay, which allows a little flexibility, but there's give and take, right? You know, if they get a little bit smaller lots, a little smaller setbacks, our take is what, you know, some people might be considered a better layout, better architecturals. So it's hard to separate them, if you will, because they go together as a package. And so I've said to the applicant that the sketch plan and the overlay from the planning commission perspective was a 2-for-1 package.
I don't know that I understood that as that, because I had some questions about houses and stuff, and I thought that it was said that that plan would come back to us if it were approved, and we could work on the plan from there. And I think the concern for the planning commission was the last time around that the Willards had a Wilshire project, they had spent so much time and it was not approved then for the overlay zone. So they were just it was my understanding we were kind of voting like, this is the general direction, but we want to still work on the concept a little bit more.
Well,
Maybe I'm the only one who felt that way.
sure.
Not.
No. Well, one of the things I want to clarify with that is the applicant did say when they come back with their preliminary plat, that's when they bring their house architectural details to you. So that I think, because you did mention houses, and I know that's one of the concerns that exist out there regarding this discussion, is the houses themselves and what those may look like.
Yeah, there's also a couple other things regarding the site that they have to address, and that's stormwater management, road widths, making everything sync so that it functions correctly. So that comes up depending on what level they want to go to. That would, if a preliminary plan were to come in, they'd have to address all of that in order to get to where they need to get a preliminary plan approval. So there's a lot of additional hoops that have to go through when a concept plan comes in. It's just, if you're comfortable with the layout of the project, if you will.
And so the next step for you all, the planning commission, which the town commission wouldn't have if it's approved by the town commission, the use of the overlays, that applicant will come back with you with the preliminary plan. And then you'll begin to see some of the more detailed layouts and the detailed pieces of the plan. But essentially, you've approved kind of the conceptual layout. I don't think you will have an issue with the conceptual layout as much as you want to see some details thereafter.
I think possibly the question that some people are getting at is like, hypothetically saying that, there was like 3 homes that somebody that bothered one of the planning commissioners that they wanted to just, they thought weren't appropriate and wanted to get rid of, just for example, like that ship has sailed. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, with the sketch plan, that was kind of the concept, is that, yeah, that ship would have sailed a little bit. I mean, I know the applicants talked about potentially removing one, but that's where we're at. I mean, you could come to preliminary plat and say, it's best to do it at sketch plan. If you want them to come back for sketch plan on any minor modification, that may be something that they could do. I mean, or it could be required, right? The sketch plan is more or less advisory. Well, actually, in the overlay district, is a requirement to do the sketch plan. In other locations, more or less advisory.
So let me ask the planning commissioners: do you all feel like, knowing that now, that you would want to have more discussion on this before you send it back? I mean, like, I know we can't go back in time, but maybe, I'd have to talk to Jay. Maybe we could at the commissioner level, we could send it back to the planning commission for more adjustments and then repeat the process. I mean, how do you all feel about that?
I'm going to answer the question this way a little bit for you to give you some context, is that I would anticipate, if the town commission decides that there needs to be some amount of changes, whatever those look like, and potentially they're fairly significant in whatever that looks like, whether it be a removal of 3 homes or 2 homes or what have you, that potentially could be, remanded back to the planning commission, because it's a little bit different than the vision you had, right? Particularly if you make some serious changes. Let's say you wanted something different along Fisher Avenue, or some homes went away. It's always my recommendation as a professional that it should come back to the planning commission if there's been significant changes by the legislative body, because you all have a role as well. And if the town commission says, look, we're making a significant change to us, they may want to send that back to you for your advice and input, because your body has a role. Now, if it's kind of trimming around the edges and they make a small changes here, could you put the trail this way? Could you do that connection this way? Maybe not as much, but when you start getting into a little bit more significant changes, what nobody's seen yet, but we have a staff, we probably got about 30, 40 letters so far in the last few days. And so those will be provided to the town commission they may want to massage the plan based on that feedback.
Well, let me have something to bring back to the commissioners, you guys. Tell me how you feel about this, if you would, please.
So personally for me, I know I brought up at least one property or one of the sites that I did not like how the proximity to the John Poole house. And I was told that that could be discussed later. After we voted for, and my understanding was we were voting that the overlay zone was the right direction, but we were going to get a chance to rework the plan when it came back to us. So personally, if that's not the case, I would like it to come back to us and actually rework the plan before we send it. That's my personal opinion.
Anybody else have input on that?
I agree with Amanda. I thought we were just we thought the general layout of the plan was good and met the needs. And we were just kind of recommending to the commissioners that, yeah, this kind of meets the criteria for the overlay zone. And then that it would come back to us to go more into the fine tuning. So I was under the same impression as Amanda. And I'm not talking about wholesale changes or anything.
Right.
I'm just talking like Amanda's saying, like,
Yeah.
maybe move this property here, switch that there, but nothing like redesigning the concept plan.
Correct. I think I'm sure the app's going to be amenable to some of that.
Seth, I don't suppose Jay's in the waiting room, is he?
No, he's not.
Okay.
I don't see him in the waiting room.
Martin, he's in, I mentioned it before, he's in the Grand Tetons and he's got a single bar. So
I talked to him earlier and he sounded pessimistic, but he said he might be able to call in, but it doesn't sound like there'll be any calling in. Okay, well that gives me something to take back and maybe we need to have this discussion.
Lexi, did you have something to say?
No, I was just going to amplify what Amanda said and what Kevin said, that my impression was more that we were voting on the proceeding with the overlay and not so much that we were locking in a concept plan for them to bring back a preliminary plan. I thought that we were still going to get another look at that concept plan.
Yeah, I did as well. So as long as the Willards are comfortable with that, then there's not a whole lot, no harm, no foul. If they're under a similar understanding. So,
well,
if we can reach out to them, I'm not requesting by any means that we send a message to the commissioners that we didn't understand what we were doing. I don't think we're that far off.
I'm gonna reach out to Jay because I just want to make sure we have our ducks in a row, like that if we say, well, the Willards are great people, they'll probably be amenable to this or that. And we need to make sure that that we're covered there. And they are great. They seem like great people, but we just want to make sure.
Absolutely.
Dot all our I's and cross all our T's. So I'll check into that and I will send you all an email and let you know what I learned.
So thank you very much for that, Martin. Thank you guys for that discussion. I think it's very important.
Yeah.
Going back to the minutes, I think with Seth's explanation, everything is correctly documented. It does not say that we approved a concept plan for the Willard project. And that was our understanding. So at least the minutes reflect what our understanding was. Does anybody have any other concerns or corrections or edits?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 16th, 2020 planning meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you. And now we'll move on to new business. Seth, we have the Jamesons ready to come in?
Yes, we do. What I'll do is I'll bring them in and then provide a little bit of an update from what they've submitted the prior time. Let me get. Guess we'll bring them all in. Should have a whole room full here. All right. Jameson family members and Josh and David, I haven't gone through any of my staff report information yet, and I will do that right now and just provide them a slight update. Those of you who are on the meeting, if you could mute any YouTube you have playing in the background, that'd be great. Jameson family members and Josh and gone through my staff information yet, and I will do that right now.
Frankie Jr.
Some folks need to turn off the YouTube back there.
I think, Seth, you have the ability to mute.
Yeah, I'll just mute them all. Mute any YouTube you have playing in the background. I'm not sure.
You got to mute that.
There we go. Took care of that. There we go. So as you all know, at the December meeting, you had a lot of discussion, some changes you wanted to see. The applicant has provided some of that. Again, the more curvilinear roads. They've reduced the number of lots due to the physical layout changes that they needed to do from 74 to 66. They have reduced the number of lots that directly adjoin and come onto West Willard from 14 to 9. There are no direct driveways onto Westerly Road, which is a county road, and no proposed central changes in that vicinity for that road. There are, again, they've eliminated some of the pipe stems, created more cul-de-sacs in this development. That's the biggest thing. We agree with the applicant that since there's nothing, since there's no pedestrian activity along Westerly Road there in the county, there's no need to underground utility lines or put a sidewalk in that location. However, undergrounding the utilities along West Willard Road and installing a sidewalk along West Willard Road will be required. The applicant does agree with that, does show that on their plan. All their forestation is proposed to be met on site. That was another change of this plan, but the comments you have requested them have been added to this. As we've dealt more and more with water and sewer, particularly sewer constraints, this project will definitely need to be contingent upon any sewer capacity, which is a bigger discussion occurring at the town commission. And it's located outside the town investment zone, unlike the Willard property. So there may be a priority rights to one development over another based on how allocation plan is written. So allocation is going to be something that this is contingent upon, which would be the case in any project. But I just want to be clear about that with the situation we find ourselves with under allocation. And that sort of does conclude staff's report.
Okay, Seth, do you know what's the process here? Are the Jameson contingency going to present what they've done or?
Yeah, that's their goal, is to present the changes that they've made based upon your request.
Okay, great.
Josh or David, would you like, well, Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions for me, staff?
No.
Okay, Josh and David, I guess the show's yours.
Seth, could you share the screen with me so I can?
Yes, absolutely, certainly.
And you guys got to bear with me for a moment. I've never done this before.
First time for everything, Josh.
Yeah, isn't that scary at 51?
So you should be able to click the share screen button and then find a window tab that you want to share. The more windows you have, the more complicated this becomes.
Awesome. Do you guys see it?
Yes, sir.
We do.
Okay, great. Seth, I'm going to pretty much say the stuff that Seth just said to you guys over again. Thank you for making time for us this evening and letting us present this to you. We've reworked the plan with what you guys said you wanted. We took all of that into consideration. The plan's been totally redesigned with a more curvilinear Main Street, now called West Bottomer Avenue. We got the list of approved road names and have incorporated that into our plan. The number of proposed lots has gone down to 66 from 74. The number of lots with direct access to West Willard Road has been reduced from 14 to 9. Let me just show you guys this. How do I zoom in?
You should be able, there you go. Josh, you might want to hit that little arrow button to the side so it takes away the AutoCAD sheets, gives you a little more expanse. Scroll down to the middle of that. You see there's a little arrow in the middle of your plans.
Arrow in the middle of my plans.
See where it says AutoCAD
Pointing
10
at it.
I'm sorry, there's too many people talking. Say
Right.
that to me again, Seth.
So you see where it says on the right-hand column there it says AutoCAD sheet X text and it says 10 PUE. There's a little arrow button next to that. Maybe if you minimize that, keep scrolling down, go straight down. Then go directly. I'm sorry. Go over to your left a little bit. That's all right. Go up. There you
Seth,
go.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Knocked it over. There you go. Might give you
Awesome.
some space.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, you got to bear with me. I'm not too technically savvy.
You click the hand. Click that one last. Okay, I was gonna say.
The
There you go. You should be able to grab and scroll it wherever you need to now.
There you go.
Is that better for everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So we've revised the driveways along here with you guys, with what you guys asked us to do. Why doesn't this move?
Try clicking the palm up in the middle of this top toolbar. See the toolbar up at the top? There you go. That'll work too.
That'll work. Okay. Wow. I'm sorry, guys.
It's all right. Just keep rolling with it. There you go. Should allow you to pull it around. There you go.
So westerly, we totally revised. There's no outgoing driveways down there. We revised stuff going on to West Willard as you guys requested. The corner lots are going into the interior new proposed road. And then back in this area was a large area of concern for you guys. Got rid of a lot of the pipe stems, brought cul-de-sacs in and adjusted the lots for that. We have plans to dedicate. Wow. I am showing my lack of technical skills. Parcel A, B, and C, we're going to dedicate to the town and satisfy our, hopefully, reforestation or afforestation requirement with that. We've proposed a strip of planting between these two houses to kind of give them some privacy and shield them. I have no idea what I did there. Sorry about that.
Don't worry about it.
So the important plan details are the plan proposes a water station, a water pump station here. We would widen West Willard, obviously, and improve that road with this subdivision, but we are not proposing, as Seth said, anything along Westerly Road. So the hedgerow would be preserved. We're giving the property owner that's kind of like a donut hole in the middle, giving him more buffer zone. So hopefully that'll make him happy. The overhead utilities will be obviously buried along West Willard when that's improved. Wow. We suggest that the sidewalk should not be required since it will not connect to other town sidewalks up here along Westerly. This is trying to be a sidewalk to nowhere and avoiding the conflict between cars. One of the commissioners spoke to actually walking on this road. So that would relieve all the vehicle conflict. So it would just be a connection up here tying into the existing walkway and path system. I mentioned that we'd be burying the utility lines. We're attempting to retain all the existing forest on the property as best as we can. with the addition of that forest planting area between the two rows of houses. And that's about it in a nutshell. Can I entertain questions? Comments?
I'll make a comment. This to me looks, I think it's safe to say a lot better than the previous plan, and I appreciate all the hard work you guys have put in. I think we're getting there. I am concerned, very concerned about our water sewer capacity at this point, and I'm confident that we'll find a way forward, but we're so deep in the weeds with this right now, trying to figure out the path forward with how to make sure we have enough sewer capacity is the big problem. That I personally think that we should table this project until that issue is resolved. I don't anticipate that taking a long time. We're working at the commissioner level, we're working really hard on that. But I'd like to hear what the other planning commission members think about that, this situation.
I agree. But my first question actually was more simple: is why does Coleman get 2 streets?
I think we'll probably have to change that. I mean, I know Josh picked from the list of names, but I think it's going to cause confusion. If anything else, regardless of fairness, just confusion.
Kevin, the Shram name's not on the official list of roads that we can put down, so you need to revise that list, and I can totally name a road after you. But until you got that list fixed and that sends it to me, I can't do anything. My hands are tied. But I'd be happy to name a road after you, your daughter, your wife, your parents.
But in all seriousness, I do agree with Martin. I don't think we really know. We're kind of walking blind right now in terms of allocations, and I'd like to know more before we go forward.
Martin, how long would you anticipate that takes, sir?
I hesitate to give you a date. I would be very uncomfortable getting much farther along with anything without knowing this. So I'd like to get it done as soon as possible, and I suspect my other commissioners agree with that. But as far as like, how many days or weeks or whatever, I wouldn't want to give you that guess at this point, but I can assure you that we're working hard on it. I mean, it's not something we're just going to say, yeah, we'll just revisit it in a year or something like that. I mean, like this is something we need to figure out. And it's definitely a priority for us.
Are all the other subdivisions that are coming in at concept level, are they all had the brakes put on them and stopped at this point also, sir?
Well, pretty much at this point, it's your development. And of course, that the town commission is seeking additional input on the Willard project. So they'll have to make a determination about that as well. But that I've actually spoken to Jim Clifford, the attorney for that project, and alerted him of this issue. So we are also kind of in a catch-22 with that situation as well.
Okay.
Does anyone else in the planning commission want to weigh in on this?
I'll say, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just say that this is a serious issue, and that I agree that it needs to be worked out before we can make any reasonable judgments going forward.
So I just want to say, one, thank you so much with coming back with another plan and really giving thought to the comments, the concerns of the neighbor. I mean, really, almost every single thing we mentioned, you addressed in this plan. And I just want to say thank you so much, because I think that when we can move forward, that we can have a really great working relationship. But I agree that considering the issues with the water and sewer, I'm really hesitant to commit to anything at this moment. But again, like I looked at this plan yesterday when we got it and immediately noticed how much care and thought that you all gave to the comments that were coming into you. So
Lexi, I live here, and I'm not going anywhere, so I obviously don't want to ruffle any feathers in the town. The Jamesons obviously live here too, and we have no plans to leave. So everything should be copacetic for me to live in this town. And obviously you guys are the planning commission, and we need to listen to how you're driving the plan and make those changes.
Yeah, and Lexi, thank you for bringing that up, because I think the weight of the sewer allocation issue is kind of deflating exactly what you just said, how well they listened and addressed the issues and our concerns. So I'll have to echo that. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, and if I didn't say it earlier, yeah, I echo Brian and Lexi. Like you definitely listened, and you put a lot of thought into it, and you know, I think there's still a few things, but it looks much better, and I really appreciate it, Josh. You did good work here.
Thank you. It was a team effort by everybody, but I obviously understand the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Water and sewer is the biggest issue, and that needs to be resolved before anything can move forward in the town.
And just to have my opinion on record, I agree with everything that's been said. I think that this plan looks significantly better. It really addressed everything that we discussed, like Lexi said, and that's amazing. It's definitely something that we'll be able to really work from when we can move forward, knowing what our water and sewer kind of looks like.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess to move forward, or to decide to not to move forward, somebody will have to make some sort of motion.
I make a motion that we table the Bricken property plan until which time that the town commissioners work out the water and sewer allocation situation. Will that motion suffice?
So I hate to throw a monkey wrench in this. Do we throw that same motion for the Willard property?
We can't. We can't. We've already made our decision on that.
Okay.
Can we speak?
Absolutely.
This is the first time I've heard that we might have a water issue. We always understood we had a sewer issue. And as you know, we went through an allocation process before in the town, and we had an allocation list with not the surety at that point in time that there was going to be capacity at the wastewater treatment plant. And the town went ahead and entertained various projects. The one we did across the street, the property of Mr. Kettler's, and the property of Winchester, among others, were all being considered at the same time that we were having issues with the wastewater treatment plant. I thought that we had no issue with the availability of water. Is that correct?
That is correct. Let me jump in for a moment. You are correct. It's not a water issue. It is a sewer issue. There was a baseline starting error in the sewer capacity plan that was created this summer. And that has sort of exacerbated a little bit of where we're at today in terms of capacity allocation because of that starting point. And so what we're going to have to do, and we've talked about this before, is we have to determine if we can do enough I&I projects to create capacity, right? I want to be very clear. We talk about I&I like we're fixing I&I, and we are, but we're doing for the sake of capacity. The only way to create capacity in this town is to fix I&I. It's very easy for people to say that, we may or may not end up charging the development community for I&I related fixes and say, the development community is paying for I&I. No, the development community would be paying for capacity that's created out of that. You almost have to think about it as if we added another basin at the water treatment plant to create more capacity. So that's where we're sort of stuck at. We've got two different numbers to arrive at two different locations with capacity.
Steph, do you have any excess capacity at the wastewater treatment plant currently?
No. Our average daily flows are about, as of last year, the 2020, I should say the 2019 year, the average flows are about 675,000 gallons. And in the 2020 year, it was 707,000 gallons. And you got to remember, 80% is about where we need to start being very sensitive about our maximum capacity. Our treatment plant is a maximum capacity of 750,000 gallons a day. So 80% of 750 is 600,000. So we've surpassed that by a fair amount, and from a state regulatory standpoint. So we need to be sensitive about that and figure out a way to bring it down closer to 80% through more I&I projects. So, John and I feel comfortable that 75 to 100,000 gallons can be tightened up through I&I projects. However, you minus, 675 minus 100 or 707 minus 100, you're at 607,000 gallons per day of average flow, or 575,000, 100,000 gallons per day. So it doesn't give you a lot of cushion. Now, if you work it from the water usage side, we might be able to garner more, but we can't promise things we can't be certain from engineering we can solve.
So you've gotten your 2020 daily flows. You've submitted all that, your
Correct.
3-year average.
Yeah,
But
that's when we got to 707,000 average daily flows.
Okay.
So Seth, may I say something?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, John.
Okay, so if you look at the dry days, we call it dry days, when we don't have rain events, you're looking at roughly around 500,000 gallons. So that gives us kind of an indication of where we could get to. Probably won't be able to get there, but where we could get to. So the commissioners have been given a chance to look at various projects, and that's what Martin was speaking of. At the present time, they're looking at how to do various projects. Am I correct, Martin?
That's correct.
Yes, you are.
Okay, so that's where we're at with the flows. Now, as you know, the town did a significant amount of work in order to be able to build the Brightwell and also the Westerly Grove, not Westerly Grove, but Brightwell and Stony Springs back in 2003 through 2015. And it did make a significant change to the flows that were coming to the wastewater plant. And those repairs are still intact. We ran some checks to make sure they are. And as an aging system comes along, you have to fix, it's like an older house. You have to fix those things that go a little bit south. And that's where the town is right now.
So you, in the newer subdivisions, Stony Spring and the Kettler subdivisions, you're not, the problem is not I&I. Is that correct?
That's correct. The newer subdivisions, we're not seeing any I&I issues in there. It's in the older, primarily in the gravity system that comes down, and that's where we're seeing it now. There's no doubt that we add capacity or add inflow from the newer subdivisions, but we're not seeing any I&I issues.
All right. Well, my concern about having a hold on the project is that we're geared up to go ahead and move forward with it. We understand you have an I&I problem, and I know you're working on various solutions, but I don't know why they could not run concurrent with one another, where you still have this plan moving forward. We'd like to get out of the concept stage, get the concept approved, so that we can start moving forward with our own internal sewer plan, do our 2-foot contours and move forward in that schedule. That would not in any way, I mean, we have to be honest with ourselves. This plan's not going to get approved in the next 12 months. So I don't know why we would have to be subject to a hold while the commissioners, the town commissioners, are still working on coming up with a permanent or a possible solution for I&I.
I don't think we want to give the impression that we can approve something that we can't guarantee capacity for. That'd be the crux of this issue. We can't guarantee that we'll be able to create the capacity. We are certainly hopeful, and we're looking at different mechanisms, but that is what you hear from us on the town side. So you'd be proceeding at your own risk without a certainty that there's going to be water and sewer. I mean, I should say sewer capacity. Water's fine, sewer capacity.
Well, let me be, you confused me on something. Has the Willard tract been approved for sewer?
No, it has not been approved for sewer at this time.
Would they be subject to the same?
They're subject to the same sort of situation. However, in 2015, the town commission did make a policy change on how allocation was divvied up. You know, beforehand, it was a little bit of a first come, first serve. Now they identified the village area, the core of town, as priority number one. And so if there was going to be a toss up and there's only capacity for one development, you know, presumably it's going to be the TIZ, the target investment zone that the commission created some years ago. So I just keep that in mind, is if only one can go forward, more than likely going to be that project.
Mhm.
I'm just.
But Seth, correct me if I'm wrong. We're not there yet where we're worried that
We're not at all there yet. No, I'm just being very open with the applicant. You know, as to what the policy decisions have been in the past. Now, where that takes us is another discussion, but we have not had that discussion. At this point, I've talked to Jim Clifford, and you know, they're essentially in the same boat you are. Is we have to wait and see what we can create as capacity.
All right. All right. Well, in all fairness to the commissioners there, Seth and John told us that a while ago. So this is not, so that you all know, this is not something hitting us cold. Both Seth and John have educated us to the problems that the town is facing with I&I. And I don't have a solution for that.
I wish I did.
Well,
I
hopefully we
appreciate-
can come back with the solution for you in the not too distant future. So
Yeah.
If we were willing to accept the risk, would you guys be willing to approve this plan and concept?
I'm uncomfortable with it personally.
Yeah, we did. My issue, and I think that I don't want to speak for everybody, but there's no, I'm not going to ask Seth right now, what are we going to do to fix I&I? And he can't tell me. I mean, he's got some ideas, but we don't know. We don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know what that bill is going to be. So, I mean, if it turns out to be a 6-year fix before we have the capacity, we certainly can't make those decisions on increasing population without having some sort of plan in front of us to know that we can address it. And I agree with you, Mr. James, 100% that it can be done concurrently as long as we have a plan.
Okay, well, I'm not going to get into going back and forth. Seth and John have been more than straight with us from the beginning. And we very much appreciate that.
I appreciate your understanding.
Boy, that's a good looking plan though. I got to tell you.
Yes.
I'm sitting there looking at that, boy, I might even buy a house in there myself. I'd get that I&I fixed quickly.
So do we have a motion? Right? We have already heard a motion?
I made a motion. Was my motion sufficient? Did someone comment on it?
I don't recall hearing a second. I don't recall any further discussion on that.
Mark, can you repeat your motion? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I think
so
I interrupted with a wrench and screwed everything up.
Come on, Kevin.
Sorry.
So my motion is that we table the brick and concept plan until which time as commissioners come up with a solution for the I&I problem.
Second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you guys for your time. Look forward
Thank
to
you
seeing
very much, you
again.
guys.
Thank you, Josh.
Nice work. Nice
Thank
work
you.
here.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night, Mr. James.
Good night, Mr. Jameson.
So our next agenda item is a master plan discussion. Given our time constraints for the evening, I'd like to just say that we really want to keep this on process discussion and kind of maybe get a starting point so that we know, and a little bit of a status. So Seth can update us on the, we'll be the first people that I'm aware of that have tried to develop a master plan during a pandemic. And I think that the state of Maryland is aware of that. So we have, Seth, you can update us on that a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So a couple things here. Process. The town commission has allocated funds for the hiring of a consultant for this project. These projects are, fairly intensive. They're usually about an 18-month long process there. And a lot of what you're doing with a consultant is the facilitation, because this should be a community-driven plan, which is very critical. And I sent you an example of one that's in Sykesville, and I know that firm that is doing that. If you look at their scope of work, you can see how many facilitation meetings they're doing with the public. That obviously creates a plan that is unique to your community and takes that input. So they take what they get from facilitation, which is sort of, even if it's just a Zoom meeting, then they do surveys, and then some of these will require a little bit of design work, and I'll touch on that. They take a lot of that and then begin to craft the text of it, but it's not as if we hand over the process to the consultant. I myself will review all of these documents, which I've done in the past with a different consultant. I just didn't hand over the process and have them hand me a product at the end. The planning commission's role under state law is the development of the plan. So you will have a guiding hand on that. You as well will all review these sections. Of course, be highly encouraged that you all attend any of the public meetings that will happen. To the chairman's statement, the state has provided a little bit of relaxing of the 10-year requirement to meet the plan. Our last plan was updated in 2010-11. One could argue that the text amendment regarding the village overlay in 2014 probably extended our plan lifespan as well. So we're okay that way. But we do need to get this started. Poolsville's at a place where, you really have talked about the two properties that are most developable in town, the Willard property and this Bricken here. There's properties out on Cattail, but they're a little bit more challenging from an engineering standpoint to get sewer there, even if the capacity was not an issue. So what I anticipate this plan to end up focusing on is your village district and the overlay that you created some years ago, and expanding upon that discussion amongst other issues. So I could see where now design to help sort of take some of the emotion out of these projects, you never can totally, is that you put this into a public process and talk about infill and begin to do some design work with the consultants as well. So we would go out for an RFP and look at the responses we have, the type of work and the scope of work that they would provide to us, bring it back to you for review as well, because this is the planning commission's purview, as I noted. So that would be the process of this. Again, the master plan, while required to be updated every 10 years in Maryland, really is a 20-year vision. And you can tweak it after 10 years. I think that would be the case here in Poolsville. Like I said, as we're mostly built out for the most part, I could see that happening as well. So that's really the crux of this. Like I said, I sent you some design-related issues. Some examples of plans that are consultant-driven previously. I think that covers.
Seth, I've looked through a couple of these master plans that you sent links to, and I'm both impressed and intimidated how thorough they are. 120 pages, like really, they drill down to every detail. I like it. So,
can I just make two observations real quick, Seth?
Yes, sir.
Or two comments. I watched the, I think it was the commissioners meeting from a week or two ago, and there was pushback against allocation for getting outside help on the master plan. And I just want to say, I think it's imperative that we do get outside help for the master plan. And I want to implore to our commissioners that it's important that we get the best, most professional help we can to ensure that we create a master plan that is professional, cohesive and gets everyone's opinions. I don't think the five of us have the man hours or the professional knowledge to produce a document that a master plan deserves. So I strongly encourage that we spend the funds to get help to create a master plan that the town of Poolsville deserves. And then second, I guess, because I know Martin's got to leave, I'm assuming our next call to action will be to help. Do we have a work session or something to help develop an RFP to make sure we get the questions, or to put in the requirements that we as a planning commission want to see in the RFP?
That's a fine point. I think that's something I could schedule offline from here with the planning commission to do over the next few weeks. And I could send you probably a couple links of what other communities have drafted for this same type of process as well, that they submit on a professional site, that for consultants who do this on a regular professional basis.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see those as models.
Like we did, I think, Brian, you were on the planning commission. We issued an RFP for the streetscape.
Yeah.
And I
We
think
did.
we had a work session to help develop what we wanted from an outside agency to provide
Right.
us.
Then we heard proposals from different groups.
Yeah.
My thinking is very similar to that, Kevin. And thank you for bringing it up. I'd like to. I still want to drive the process here, right? That's what we're here for. So I want to get our heads together and think about what we really want in terms of help. Where do we think our strengths and weaknesses are? Where do you think us as a commissioner group and us also as a town? Where do we want focus that could help us find people that have done things that have similar expertise and what we think is most important. I don't think it's just I think we need to be careful about saying, okay, we've got the money, so we'll get an RFP, and the one that comes in within our budget will do it. I'd like to see us take a little bit more of a push and get us into the right fit, and let us decide what we think the right amount of help is. Right? I'm pretty impressed with the group as a whole. We really have, in my opinion, done a good job of vetting things, and I hear a lot of good opinions out of everybody. So let's see what we can come up with. We have some good resources in town as well. We have people. That's a great thing about Poolsville. We have people that wrote these last couple of master plans still as town residents, and they've already reached out to say if I have any questions or if we have any concerns. They've been to our meetings and said the same thing.
One of them is probably watching now.
He may be, Mr. Coakley.
And Mr. Pierce.
And Mr. Pierce, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I think we can get ourselves in a better position, educate ourselves a little bit more, get our heads going in the right direction, and kind of come up with a plan on what the RFP should look like, where we feel like we need that most help. So, before we go, it's our due diligence, right? Before we spend the taxpayers' money, we need to make sure we're doing what we should.
For sure. And Kevin, I agree with you. I mean, I think you know this, but we contract out like lots of important things in Poolsville that where we don't have the our own expertise. So I think like to have somebody come in and help us, and I don't know at what level they help us, if it's like total hand holding or something less, but some kind of help I think is very appropriate.
Yeah, I just want to add that I completely agree. I'm actually within my own work, day-to-day work, I actually read master plans quite often. And I will tell you that it is glaringly obvious, usually, it's very obvious which ones have contracted for professional assistance and which ones have pulled from, everyone on this team is very talented. And I know that we would all, if we were doing it ourselves, would do our absolute best work. But I'm also very confident we will miss something. And that creates a liability for us. It creates a liability for the town. I just really worry that, through no intention of our own, something will get dropped. And having that professionalism and that assistance, that facilitator will make sure that all of the T's are crossed, all of the I's are dots, and we're there to drive the car and make sure that all the nuances in there that should be in there for Poolsville. But I really am concerned about us being also the mechanics on that car.
Yeah, well said.
Good analogy.
I was going to say, an excellent analogy. I think we would be really good at getting our community members together and ensuring that our community members' voices are heard so that the plan really reflects what we want. But I think I am concerned, especially after seeing these plans that Seth sent, how detailed they are, and even how their implementation strategies have long-term goals and then short-term goals underneath with dates to complete by. There's a lot in there that I feel like would make our plan significantly stronger.
And one of the things, just to clarify, is that I will be hyper vigilant, and I'm sure you all will be as well, as that we're not getting a template, right? I sent you one firm who has 3 different products that are distinct from each other. And of course, that's what we'll focus on, but that's always the concern, right? When you go outside is, are you getting a template? And, we will ask for past works, and you'll be able to see whether they customize from community to community, as they should, because the input process in and of itself is going to generate different issues in each community. So that'll be something we'll be focused on as well. Just, I know that's a concern. It's a concern for myself. I don't want to work in a place where somebody's pulled off a plan that's just been slightly modified for the community we live in, and then develop and grow and build a great place for people to live and raise a family and recreate.
All right. I think we've got a lot of us saying the same things and consistent thoughts on this. So if we can put this on the next meeting's agenda, and Seth, maybe you and I can come up with an outline of how we want the discussion to go.
Sure.
And circulate that in advance of our next meeting and get some way in and see if we're looking, at a good first meeting.
Sure.
And maybe set a goal or two to come out of that meeting.
Sounds good. Can do.
I also want to echo something Brian said. I think this is a really good cohesive board we have right now. Like, I think that, you guys constantly think of things that I wouldn't have thought of. I mean, it's a really smart group we have here that work well together. So I appreciate that.
I've never been included with the word smart before, but I feel good.
Well,
Thank you.
I didn't really mean you, Kevin.
Right.
I was just being nice.
Look at the company you're keeping. I mean, it's just kind of. All right. So I think that's a good master plan discussion for tonight. We'll try and have a good structured discussion next meeting and have some goals and hopefully we'll really kind of get this rolling a little bit. Seth, did you have something to present on the 2020 meeting schedule?
Yes, I will send that out to you. I apologize for not having that in advance. What that meeting schedule will be, and we will post it to the website, is applicants have to submit by a certain date to make your meeting date. And we had one for last year, and I will just give that to you. So for your purposes, just look at all the scheduled meeting dates. I've outlined all those. I'm not sure if there's any conflicts. Sometimes we butt up against a holiday, but being on Wednesdays this year, we should probably clear those. Usually it's Monday holidays that are a problem, but that's all it is. The applicant has to submit on date X to meet meeting Y. So that's what that is. I'll send that out to you after the meeting, and then I'll get it posted to the webpage.
What is the standard there? Are we 10 days or 7?
No, well, I back it up. I back up submission by about 3 weeks, because if we have to have legal notice, that's a 15-day period.
Gotcha.
So I just build that in there.
Yep.
As well.
While we're on the subject of meetings and stuff, I'm not going to make this long. Seth, I just want to put a tickler in your brain. Instead of emailing documents, I wonder if we can look into a shared drive to post everything so that everything is there, all the documents, and we don't have to search through emails.
Sure.
Just not, just something to think about.
Sure.
And a Google Calendar.
Well, yeah, but I mean like a OneDrive or a Dropbox for a planning commission document.
Yeah.
Agendas and stuff, drawings.
Certainly. Understood. Can do that.
And then I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Anybody have anything else to say before we move forward?
I just wanted to say this was a very smooth meeting. You really handled the time well and maintained it. Thanks, Brian.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
thank you, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we all do a good job of that. I think we have efficiently oriented minds. I think so. All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.